Simon, thanks for being on.
Yeah, my pleasure, Tim.
That's it.
It's good to finally catch up.
Yeah, we finally got here. I describe you as you started off as a tradie. You then moved into running your own business yourself and learnt a lot through that. You now run a group called the Tradies Bar, which you help other tradies move into owning their own business. And like any good tradie, you're always on the tools yourself. But that's my sum up of you. For people that don't know you along at home, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, mate. I come from a sort of family of fencers originally, and I'm a fencer now by not by trade as definition. It's because fencing per se is not a trade recognised business or job at the moment. It's something that we're working on at the moment. But I've been fencing and landscaping for the best part of 25 years. Started as a sole trader, had myriad of jobs when I was very young, but started something fencing. I just kept falling back into my grandfather done it, my father, uncles, and it was sort of, they never made businesses out of it. They made they were just subcontractors, and they just made a sort of living and earn out of it. So when I started, I had a bit of a fire in my belly, and I wanted to take it to something a lot different. And I grew it into a company probably for 10 years. After about 3 years, I got to about the 500K turnover mark. And then I got sort of plateaued out. I got stuck there for, probably 10 years. So then I did a few things, a few tweaks and a few changes, and I sort of grew it up into a full-blown company. Started turning 1.7 million on our 11th year, and then drove it up to about 4 million turnover.
Wow.
In all that, and that's been the last 25 years. In all of that, then something happened that I didn't account for, and I didn't have enough backup, and I got hammered by some big players, multinationals, and ended up losing everything. Right back down to nothing. Lost my house, lost everything. That's happened in the last 18 months to 2 years. And now I'm back as a sole trader again, back where I was 20 years ago, starting all over again.
Yeah, wow. So you've had you've had the meteoric rise and the joys of building a company, and then now you're back at the start and you're going to build it up again. That's sort of where you're at.
Yeah. So out of that heartache, one of the things that was born out of that was the Tradies Bar, and it was a Facebook group for tradies specifically learning about business, trying to grow their business. Trying to toss up whether to leave their boss and go and get a job, or go and get their own businesses and things like that. And one of the skill sets that I have been successful in growing my business, not only my fencing business, but I bought a welding business as well, and I managed to double its turnover within 12 months. And so, as time moves on, I've sort of sold businesses and moved forward, but the fencing side of things is the one thing I've always been really, really good at and physically come back to. But yeah, the Tradies Bar was something that it sort of just grew on me and drove me to a position where I got to, I was just so fed up with seeing other tradesmen make similar mistakes to what I was making, or had made, but going to the wall. And I talked to senators, I talked to local members who took a lot of my issues down into Parliament. With I can't say what had actually happened, but it was care of multinationals, and they just pick you up like a rag doll, toss you around, and feed you to the dogs. And if you don't have the funds to fight them, you're really out on your own, and you just get swept aside.
Yeah, wow.
So that's a bit of a channel that. Yeah.
Wow.
One of the big things that come out of that, I talked to at the time, Robin Hobbs was, or may still be, the Small Business Commissioner for New South Wales. for small business. And she came up and had lunch with me and informed me then that something in 2018, 20,000 sort of small businesses in New South Wales alone, not Australia, just New South Wales, hit the wall. And it's something that is our backbone of Australia. It's our country. And we got all these small businesses starting up, failing, starting up a new one, failing again, giving up, going to get a job somewhere, go and work in a factory. And well, if that floats your boat and you want to work in a factory and you don't want the pressure or you just want that security, that's great. But for the entrepreneur who's got a little bit of drive and wants to sort of go there and doesn't want to sit still, it's heartbreaking and debilitating that you see these people put so much effort and hard work into something that, a flip of the dice isn't going to work.
Yeah. So you mentioned sort of 90%. Well, the fact that's out there is 90% of businesses fail within the first 1, 2, 3 years. And I'm sure a lot of these businesses are the ones that you're alluding to. You also said there's a few key mistakes that people are making that are leading them down this road. Can you kind of expand on sort of the simple things that people may not know about, that they're making a mistake in a tradie business that is really costing them, that maybe they can fix?
Okay, so we'll back up first. 80% of businesses that fail or 90% fail in the first 1 to 3 years, and then to 5 years, and then the following 5 years, 80% of those who are left fail again. So it sort of gets to that level and that plateau of a business. And I used to go through each year and go, righto, I'm 1 year down, so I've got 4 years to go. And then when I got to that 5 years, I went, yes, I've made it through that 80%. Right, and this was just a mental thing that used to go through my head all the time. Then I got to the 10 years, and I was, I'm cool, I'm okay there. I got to about the 12th year, and I scored a really, really big contract, and thought this was it, and it just skyrocketed me through. And I had solicitors look at my contracts and everything else, and a lot of people said, "Oh, there must be something you can do." And look, there's just at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it was what it was. I didn't have any recourse. I made a few mistakes contractually along those lines, and signed a deed of release when I probably shouldn't have. So that cost me quite a substantial amount of money, and more so my cash flow, and cash flow killed me. So moving on to your second question, for the tradies, what is a big thing that sticks out for me is a lot of tradies don't know their numbers. They tell you they do, but when you start to question them and find out behind the scenes, they really don't know. And look, again, I was in the same boat.
Were you sorry to come in? Were you one of those tradies, do you think, in the early days where you were like, I'm just going to ignore the numbers because it's too attention detail?
Yeah, I ignored the numbers because I didn't understand them. So that was a big thing. When I first sort of started out, and even little things like, I was a big power player, so I wasn't so much concerned about the finance and the money. And I always used to say to my wife, I don't care how much the debt is, as long as I can service the debt. Okay, so that was me until I couldn't service the debt. And as I grew and grew and grew, and we had, I think we had 20 staff in the end, and probably up to about 10 teams of subbies working for us. When you've got that many people working for you, there's a massive outlay for wages and things like that. But also you can sort of service the debts because they're bringing so much money back in, hopefully, as well. When everything starts to go pear-shaped and you're left as a director to try and pull everything back together, you've got to service that debt on your own, and it's near impossible. So that's just a little sort of sideline light to that. But quoting, I was talking to a fellow the other day. I had a business coach back in 2005, I think it was, and he asked me the same questions that I asked some of my tradies now that I talk to and help through some of their issues. But I asked them what he thought his quote rate was at, and my quote rate I thought was around 80% strike rate. I was getting the jobs. So we sat down and worked it out, nutted it out and everything else. And one of the big things I sort of found, and my strike rate was 23%. That's what it worked out to be. So I'm living on the Northern Rivers in New South Wales. I was doing an hour. I was living in a little country town, and I would drive an hour any which way for work. So north, south, east, west, an hour. Some days if I was doing quotes, I'd be lucky to try and get 10 quotes done in a day, like physically go and drive and see somebody. And if I was at Byron Bay, for example, then I had to drive down to, Woodburn or down to Grafton and that. Like, you're doing 300-400 Ks.
Yeah, and this is just quoting. This is just quoting.
Yeah, that's just quoting.
Yeah.
So you drive
not even win those jobs.
Yeah, spend all this money on fuel and time that you're not actually focused on which job is actually making you the most money anyway. You're just out there quoting everything because the phone rings and you've got to run and do a quote. And, that's one of the, I was exactly the same way, and now I'm not. And my strike rate is, probably up around the 40% to 50%, which is, I think is pretty high. I think if a tradie tells you his strike rate's sort of 80-90%, or close to 100%, he's either too cheap or he's lying. So,
well, that's any business. If you've got 100%, if no one's telling you no, then you're not charging enough.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and look, there's even our stats here on the Northern Rivers in 2008 or 2009, I think it was 70% of Australia's semi-retired builders or tradesmen were moving to the Northern Rivers for that sea style or sea change lifestyle. And one of the big things we were finding back through that, and I can't remember the year it was exactly when all the stimulus package was sort of brought in by the government, so a lot of school stuff sort of happened. There was so much work around the country for a lot of tradies. Then all of a sudden it stopped, and you've got 70% of the semi-retired tradies living on the north coast with no work. So they were just then started doing everything, and handyman work and lawn mowing, and builders were then doing fencing because they weren't getting any building work, and so just squeezed everybody down the track. Without knowing back then, if you didn't know what your sort of customer client or your target market or who they were, your demographics and psychographics, everything that sort of goes along those lines, you're fishing in the bottom of the barrel with everyone else. So,
and that leads me to sort of what I was going to say. I mean, my passion is marketing. That's why I did this, and I love figuring out an ideal client, segmenting, targeting, positioning.
Yep.
But for people that haven't had that training, it can be quite an unknown process to do, and to think about who it is you actually want to target and who you actually want to serve, because that's a really important step, because it lets you have the right conversations with the right type of people. Do you find that in the trades industry as well?
Look, some of them, what I'm finding now, especially with social media and so much interest on Instagram and Facebook with Gary V and Tony Robbins and those type of Grant Cardone, those type of people. Some of the tradies who are sort of a bit more switched on marketing wise, or probably have that little bit more fire in their bellies at the moment, are looking for those mentors and leaders in that thought market. And I don't mean this to be derogatory in any way, but some of the tradies are happy to just poke along as well, and that's cool. If that's what you want to do, and you want to just poke along, get up every day, go to work, earn your dollars, even in your own business, just do that and then come home, that's perfectly fine. But what I'm finding is, especially now, I'm 2 years off 50, and my body's packing it in. I can't do what I could do when I was 25-year-old, like throwing crowbars and nail guns and everything around, and climbing
And
everything.
I can't. I'm 25 right now, and I can't do any of that.
Yeah, so it's really hard, and we're hard on our bodies. One of the big things I talk about a lot talk to a lot of tradies about is mental health. It is rife in our industry, specifically in the construction industry. Suicides and depression and things like that are really, really high. Divorce is really, really high. And a lot of it comes back down to just pressure and money. And, blokes will ring me up and, so I've just lost everything. I've lost my job. There's been a downturn in the market and I can't get work and now I can't feed the kids. And my wife just walked out because she's got the craps with me and doesn't know how to handle it and everything else. And I'm not a specialist in that field at all. I can only talk from my own experiences and the feelings that I went through with the downturn of my businesses, and then also the upturns of my business and where I am now. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there is a way out. You've just got to sort of dig deep and persevere and sustain as long as you can, and seek help. People, part of the Tradies bar that really helped me out was being able to talk to other people who were going through similar things that I was going through. I thought my whole world was just coming to an end. I've been in business for 20 years, run my own company, and I had staff that I treated like family. And when things sort of hit the wall, you sort of really find out quick, smart, who's in the game and who's not in the game and who's going to sort of help you out. And money changes a lot of people, unfortunately. It's just the nature of the beast. Loved ones, close ones, family. It's going through that sort of side of things and then coming out the other side now and going, wow, I was really focusing on the wrong thing. Now I can make money. I know how to make money. Making money for me is the easy part. I'm not wealthy, and I don't mean to be sound arrogant there or anything else. I'm not wealthy or anything else, but I know how to charge.
Yeah, and trades. I admire trades for your ability to charge. I got a mate who's a commercial plumber, and he does jobs in the CBD and AFL, like MCG, Amy Stadium. He puts in all the aircon, and he tells me about his hourly rates and what he gets, and it actually inspires me to go, hang on, and he talks about his job, about even how easy it is because he's got it to a system now, but put me in that situation, I wouldn't know what I'm doing. And it's something I admire in all trades, their ability to charge. Well, if they know what they're doing, like yourself, charge properly. So you figure that out.
There's a lot of, and that brings me back to our earlier point. You've got to know your net worth, and I don't mean your net value or how much you're worth, but I mean how much am I worth on this ground to go out and show my skill set and do what I have to do. Because as a tradie, we're all running service businesses, but we're actually solving somebody's problem. And that's a big mind shift that I struggled with for a long time. And as I said, I wasn't a money person. The money didn't really faze me whatsoever. I like the pats on the back. And I think when I really sit down and analyse my old business, it was ego-driven. Typical Aussie bloke, I wanted to be the best and the most powerful and everything else. And what I realise now is I see some of my opposition and other fencing companies that are out there where I was 10 years ago and really striving forward. And I get a sort of chuckle out because I don't want to go back there. I don't want to grow a big business anymore. I'm quite happy now to, even though I'm sort of run off my feet a little bit, I'm setting the mentorship up so I can help other tradies and sort of eventually sort of scale out of my fencing and move more into the business platform and the mentoring and make my sort of income and my living from there. And that sort of frees up my body from getting smashed all the time. But even in that transition, I can go out and work 40 hours a week in 4 days, or I can go out and I'm always busy. I'm always finding something to do and keep going. So as soon as one door sort of shuts or whatever, there's another one opening, and I don't like to sort of sit idle. So that's a problem that I still have. It's like, let's have a
I know
rest.
the feeling. Yeah.
Not going to happen. So we just keep moving and moving and moving all the time. But I can now go and have a day off. Like I've just spent the last 10 days off over Christmas without an income coming in, because as a tradies, we don't get a lot of holidays. Christmas is normally sort of working up to Christmas is our busy time for a lot of us, and especially in the heat and everything else, and everybody has to have something done for Christmas. So we're trying to push through that side of things, and then come back into January and go, oh, okay, everything stops, supplies, can't get supplies because everybody's closed up. So if you haven't, clients are away on holiday, or they'll book things in and say, right, we want to do this, and then all of a sudden, oh, sorry, I haven't got any money because I've just spent it on the Christmas break or whatever. And a lot of tradies will feel that sort of pinch, and they'll feel that downturn. And then if they haven't planned well enough, it'll hurt them financially as well.
Yeah. So what can people do in January or even late December to kind of avoid that trap?
Well, so one of the big things I've always tried to do is I try not to book any jobs out for December. So I work flat out up until quoting, but I shut all my quotes off in sort of November roughly, and then I'll just try and tidy up the last little things in December to get that need to get done. There is always one big fish somewhere that will come in and go, hey, I need you to do this. I'm going to pay you this. Can you come and do it? And I can make quite an earn out of that by just having myself freed up for that. But the big thing is you just got to be prepared, and you got to plan. And one of the things that a lot of people don't do is plan, and tradies don't. 90% of tradies don't. And we always, the classic cliche, fail to plan to fail. It's one of those things, and so that's one of the things in my that's probably my big thing for the tradies bar is I out of desperation and I found it as a really big window and a desire for myself to go in and help as many tradies as possible to sort of getting to that next level if they want to go that way. It's just completely up to them. But so I wrote a 6-week course called Kickstart. Kickstart Your Business, and it's a 6-week course. It basically is drip fed 1 hour of content for the week. So one thing as a tradie that I've learned is when you're out on the tools and you're busting yourself all day, you come home, you want to have a beer, you want to put your feet up, you want to play with the kids, cuddle the wife. You don't want to go and do study. It is just the last thing on anybody's mind. Whether you're a trader
unless you're a unique individual that just loves the grind and passion. But the bulk of the market, I mean, why didn't we want to do our homework as kids? Like, it's the same thing. We just want to get home.
We're very easily distracted.
Yeah.
But when we're most productive, and the statistics will tell you this too, you're most productive as a business owner 2 weeks before holidays, and 2 weeks, and these are the things for injuries as well. Most injuries in the workplace, especially in construction, will happen 2 weeks before a break
Christmas.
and 2 weeks after a break.
Yep.
Because we get complacent, we're trying to rush things, we get things done. If you want something done, go and tell your secretary that she's going on leave on Friday. She'll make sure her desk is clean. I can tell you, they get everything sorted. And I'm the same. This has to be done. That has to be done. There's a sequence and a system that has to be done. And if you're on top of things and you can plan things around that,
Yeah.
you
So
can
how does the tradies bar? So how does that fit into that culture and that mentality of I don't want to do anything in my spare time, but the benefit that people can get from being in such a great network. Yeah. How do you think someone can let it fit around their life?
Yeah, like out of the, as I said, I've got the 6-week program that is drip fed each week for. I think it's 1 hour, watch a bit of video, and go and implement something.
That's
just
important.
You've got to implement, and if you don't implement, it's just a waste of time. And what I've found with even like the first module is all about planning. So I've broken the planning down into a system that I found works for me. I've always had big dreams, big goals. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's going to be a 10-year plan. And I don't necessarily agree with that now. I like to sort of work on 12 months and say, right, this is where I need to be in 12 months. How am I going to get there by dividing it up into those 12 months? And do it monthly. And then if I can't do it monthly, do it weekly. And then sometimes I can do it daily. One of the big things I find as a tradie, trying to do daily and even weekly things is a little bit sort of too much sometimes as well. But if you write it down and you can get a plan into action, and you can sort of stick to it, you've got to have a little bit of discipline. And that's something that's pretty hard. Even long term, trying to stay focused and and that's where I found the Tradies Bar was a good out for me. So it was good for me to talk to other tradies, good for other tradies to talk to me, raise questions amongst themselves without me being the sort of key figure as well. I try and educate where I can, but I don't pretend to have all the answers either. I've learned from my mistakes. I'm sure a lot of other tradies are out there doing similar things and making similar mistakes. So if I can sort of say, hey, look, I've done that and it doesn't work, go this way, it might give somebody, if it saves one tradie some heartache and some grief, or, I think I'm doing my job. So if I can touch as many tradies, I think in the Tradies Bar now we have about 430 odd tradies in there. Not all active.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the action and get them a bit more active, so we can sort of get it across. But with out of the 6 weeks of the program, because it was such a or whether we call it a program or whether we call it a challenge, I suppose, get a 6-week challenge. And part of that is I did a bit of, I spent 2 years studying marketing with Ben Simpkins, who's one of the Facebook gurus. And he absolutely taught me a lot about Facebook, but more about business and more about people and targeting and the pillars of business and things like that. So I feel it's my duty now to pass that back on to the people who don't know.
Yeah, so, and I want to touch on this because it's something I'm really passionate about, is the relationships tradies have with marketers. And something that concerns me is there are a lot of cowboys in the marketing industry that will target tradies because they go, okay, well, a tradie earns this much on a job, so therefore it means, okay, they can probably spend about $2, $3, $4 a month on marketing. And it annoys me because then you get people hounding them through phone calls and then it's like, okay, they might take someone on, but then this person won't deliver on results. And that's the thing that really annoys me. So can you give me a bit of insight into conversations that you've had with marketers, and then maybe on the good side and the bad side at the same time? Can you sort of relate to that?
Oh, look, I've been in the same boat, and it's like with email automation now, everybody wants your email and wants to get you onto a list, so you get spammed a lot, and that's on the sort of negative side of things. But I I still get telemarketers ring me all the time, and different marketers saying, look, we can do this, rah, rah, rah. And the first thing I sort of say to them is, okay, who is your target market? And they just go blank. And I say, look, if you don't know what I'm talking about, see you later. So, I sort of move on that way. But with the group that I was in, I've always sort of felt if I'm the dumbest one in the classroom, I'm in the right classroom. And I've sort of looked at that for my personal growth. And some of the marketers that I was with were just absolutely mind-blowing. Some of them are doing $1 million months on Facebook on selling things that they're doing in marketing the way they do. And I don't have that technique. I'm not... I studied with those marketers for 2 years. I'm really, really good friends with a lot of them now, so I can go for help where I need it. But it's not my forte. My forte is not marketing.
You got to know what you're good at. You got to know what you're good at.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You've got to know what your forte is, and if you can make $1 out of that forte. What I find a lot of the times is, especially tradies, a lot of tradies are really, really good at their job. Suck at their business, but really, really good at their job. And sometimes a lot of those people who are really, really good at their job are just not making any money. And, there's a big gap between being good at your job and making money. And, if you're not making any money, it doesn't matter how good at your job is, or you're going to float out. So you go and do something different. Go and get a job for somebody else. And
have that self-awareness.
And that's one of the other things. You've got to be mentally have the capacity to realise that self-awareness. And this was one of the big things that I talk about now, especially now as I've gone back as a sole trader again, and I'm struggling with all the time management and everything else, and trying to do 10 things at once. And, because I had secretaries, I had salespeople, I had purchase officers and manufacturers and supply chains and warehouse managers and welding managers and all this. So it pushed me to a different level where I didn't have to do all those things. So I could sit back and sort of watch what was happening. But then I took my eye off the ball a little bit because I was chasing something different. And when I started to do that, things started to... I still had my eye on the finances and everything else and what was sort of dialing down in. And what I found, especially after the fact, right, and this is a really good lesson for tradies out there who don't want to get to know their numbers, and you can wing it, and I winged it for a long time, and thought, well, there's so much money coming into my bank accounts, but there was more going out. And when if you're doing a $100,000 job at 25% profit or whatever, you're getting 25 grand for yourself as a sole trader. When you're a company and you're doing 100 grand profit, 100 grand job, and all of a sudden your net margins are back down to 2%, not gross margins, but your net margins, there's no room for error. And
no room for delays, no room for anything stuffing up. And
as you know, as a tradie, it's not just a bloke on the ground doing the job. There's a whole range of suppliers and deliveries and manufacturers and powder coaters and things like that, all the way down the line. Only takes one hiccup down there. How bad weather knocks, you get one day of bad rain, you could be 2 days out straight away. So there's all these little things that come into it that, as a small business owner, when you go out and start your trade, you go, well, I'm just going to set the world on fire because my boss is earning $60 an hour, and I want that. I don't see what's going on behind it. Okay, so that's one thing I'd like to talk to tradies straight away. Know your net worth, and two, know how to charge, and know where your overheads are and what it costs you to get out of bed in the morning, flick your boots on and go to work. Because if you don't, you could be going backwards before, I'd rather go fishing and stay at home and go broke than go to work and go broke. So,
Yeah.
That's a big thing too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to actually, because we sort of skipped over the mental health bit, and it's something I'm really passionate about. I shared a number of times on this podcast my struggles with depression, but I know, yeah, you said there in the trade industries, especially around holidays, and it's a rife in the industry. I want to get your opinion because you went through a big shift in what could have been your mental state where the business was sort of taken down, but in a way, how did you have the perseverance yourself to really kind of get through that that mental sort of period of toughness, I guess I'd say?
Look, I think because I was probably a little bit more older, and I could see things that were starting to happen in my business that as it was growing, I was losing control. And I've always been a bit of a control freak as well. So that's why I've worked for myself for so long, because I don't like working for bosses. Even though as a tradie, you always have somebody up higher. You always got your client, you've always got project managers or whatever to run your engineers or things like that. So you always answer to somebody. But as a tradie, you have to be pretty resilient anyway. It's a tough industry. It's physically tough. Doesn't matter what job you're in. You cop the elements. It's. I don't think there's one really trade industry out there that's not really physical. Even mechanics are throwing spanners around and bending under cars and rolling under cars and things like that. And painters have got bloody, gyp rockers are up on stilts, and brickies are throwing bricks around. There's so much that is. Tilers are bending over all day, bending their back. It's like this. It's just such a physical job.
And I think that's why the mental side of things gets overlooked, because you look at tradies as strong, tough guys that, also women that are doing it now, of course.
Tradie women are a really big thing in our industry at the moment. They're really reaching a lot of goals, and I think it's absolutely fantastic, because we're talking about having a trade shortage, because a lot of are taking apprentices on, and I think a lot of our youth now probably don't have that resilience, and I don't want to target all youth in one group there, but a lot of them seem to struggle with that side of things, and I don't know the answer to that, but we're seeing some of the ladies come out now in the trade industry, and I follow a lot of them on Facebook and on Instagram, and seeing what they can do is just blows me away. Actually, I'm really excited to see where they take that to the next level. And I know a lot of ladies are truck drivers in the mines and things like that, and generally because they're sort of a lot softer on the gear and they're not so hard on gear as well. So they have
also attention to detail. Sorry to cut you off. Attention to detail, where it's like looking at the numbers and actually caring about the stuff and getting home and doing those really finicky things. I think, my girlfriend has more attention to detail than myself. So if I use that as the example, I think it's exciting as women move into more trades.
Yeah, it is, and that's one of the big things that I've found in my target area is not just the tradies. A lot of their wives are the ones who are doing the courses that come through me. So the husbands are there, they're excited, they want to do it, but they just sometimes are too tired and mentally can't function when they get home. But the wives are going, hey, my hubby's working 24/7. I want him home with the kids. How do we get him into that next move? And I'll just say, right, what are your goals? What do you fear the most? I'd go through their fears and frustrations a lot and touch on those things because I've had to deal with that side of myself, and probably the most gut-wrenching day. I've had two most gut-wrenching days. One was when I sat all my staff down and said, listen, I think we've got probably a month left, and then I'm calling quits. That broke me. That was just devastated me. And a general manager come and told me, he said, "You're all right." He said, "I think you better leave." And the I drove out, called my wife, and sat in the car park in a local park and just cried like a baby. And that was after, so long. It was just all this pent up anguish and fighting so long to try and get it to work, and then just coming to that realization, saying, "Listen, hey, this ain't working." So I had to sort of realize that. The second time was when I had to go home and tell my wife that that's it, we've just lost a house. Our family home of 30 years. That was pretty hard to take. And hard on my family, hard on my wife, hard on my kids, and a lot of friends around me. So talking, as I said, probably what got me through was talking to so many other tradies who were ringing me and had heard my story. And one of my ads on Facebook was how a tradie or a fencer going from $450 a week 20 years ago to now running a $3 million company, and they just wanted to know how I did it. And I could show them how I did that. What I now realise is, hey, yeah, I was earning $3-4 million a year, but I was at 2%. And where's it go? It's all went south. So now I know my numbers. I know exactly where I'm at and where I need to be, and that ain't ever going to happen again. No. So you sort of learn those things as you go, and sometimes shit happens and you fall over. You just got to pick yourself up and wipe the dust off your face and skin your knees and put the band-aids on and knuckle down and go again.
That's amazing.
It sucks. It really does. But there's a light at the end of it, and that's a big thing. There's talking to different people. I talk to when you're in a situation that is really tough mentally on you and emotionally, yourself is so draining. It is just wears you out so much. And when I shut everything down, my daughter was in the middle of Queensland. I grabbed the missus and said, "Come on, let's go and see." I hadn't seen my daughter for about 8-9 months, and we went up onto this cattle station in the middle of Whoop Whoop, and I just shut down. And I had to go through all this legal paperwork and logistical stuff. And so I spent 3 days doing that, just wrecking my brain to try and do that. I then shut down for about another 3 or 4 days where I couldn't really get out of bed or do much. I didn't even want to leave the house, I didn't want to leave the bedroom. I was just done. And then I sort of got up and went, well, to be honest, the boredom got me. I didn't want to leave the bedroom, but I was going crazy because I was thinking too much about stuff that I had no control over. So, and that was the one thing that I struggled with the most, because I've been in control all my life of everything. All of a sudden I had no control. So these things were happening to me, not necessarily because of me, but they were happening to me, and I just couldn't do anything about it. So I jumped back out. I went and seen the farmer. He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Oh, I'm a fencer." They give me some fencing. He goes, "Well, there's 10 Ks out there. You can do this, you can do that." And I just went and started fencing for a bit, and then sort of went, wow, I actually miss some of this stuff. As crazy as that sounds, I sort of missed doing the physical side, because I was so caught up doing the political side of, running a business, and then, as I said, I had a lot of staff. So at any given time, there was either somebody sick, somebody on holidays, somebody whinging and crying to me and telling me all their problems and everything else. And as a business owner, you've got to wear all that. So if you can't wear that, and you shouldn't be even thinking or contemplating about going down into that role. And I had HR managers to help me and everything else, but they would still come to me, expect me to solve their problems, and sometimes you just can't, and it's really hard. Sometimes you've got to be tough. You got to learn to say no. That's I've lost a few what I thought were close friends who were in my business for a long time, because I said no. In the end, I just said, that's it, no more. And they didn't like me saying no. And it was,
but that's so much better for your mental health and your business as well, to be able to actually say no.
Yeah. There was one thing, and I will say this for a lot of tradies. A lot of tradies are money orientated, but there is generally a goal behind that money. So I struggled, as I said, with money for a long time. So the money wasn't my driver. It never drove me to go and do things. As I said, I was more sort of ego, I like the power, I like the pats on the back. But now I've sort of realised that, and I've changed my sort of philosophy. I've changed my mindset around money. I grew up in an age where, money is the root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees, and no, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. Rah, rah. And it's just like, why? Why can't we have it? Let's work really hard, and you can get it. And now I'm sort of, no, hang on, let's work really smart, and then you can have more. And let's give back to the people who are struggling. So we can give them more, and then by doing that, I get more anyway. It's just a natural cycle of round things, and it's taken me a long time to learn that. So if I'm helping now with tradies doing the same thing, as I said, there's some really, really good tradies out there. There's some rogues, some really shonky ones out there as well.
That's any industry. That is every industry.
Right.
But
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But we get tagged with it a lot, and
so do I. So does marketing.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I'm excited for this year, 2020. We're holding our first, Fence It is the group, and it's holding our first fencing conference ever. So as fencers, as builders, and tradesmen, you normally go through HIA or Housing Industry Association or Master Builders, have a platform to go to. Fencers, we don't. So we've formed a group. We're having our first sort of conference where in May, I think it is, having a heap of fencers come to the Gold Coast and do a bit of training, bit of learning, bit of business stuff. Just get together, have a inaugural presentation night, and for business awards, and just like every other group is doing, but for some reason fencers, we have never done it. One of the other big things, what we're trying to push through, and we're in discussions with TAFE at the moment, is to bring the fencing game into a trade, because we do so much trades work that isn't recognised, and because it isn't recognised, a lot of the time fencers feel like because they're not a tradesman themselves, they can't charge for that thing, and that's a big step going forward. If we can change that around, have a platform that we can go to when we're struggling, or somebody to talk to, legal teams, things like that. It's just something forward that we can move with, and that's a really good step for my industry in specific. So
Blank the group. Look, I think that's a really awesome spot to leave it on. But before I go, I've got two more questions. I mean, you sort of went into it a little bit, but mainly personally for yourself, what have you got on? It's the start of 2020 now that we're recording this. The episode will probably be published by the end of January, if not sooner. But yeah, what have you got on? So we can have a chat during the year, and I can say, hey Simon, how's that going?
Yeah. There's something that a goal that I want for my mentoring is I want to try and touch 100 tradies this year, and I want to grow my tradies group up to about 1,000. That's been a personal goal for a couple of years now, and I sort of got stagnant there for a while because I had so much crap sort of bogging me down in the head, and it just took too much time. So now that's finished. Sweep it away, it's gone. Start again, move forward. I want to sort of grow my group Tradies bar to about 1,000. I I would love to do 2 conferences this year myself, with guest speakers as marketers, and help another trade, get 20 or 30 tradies together, whether it's on the Gold Coast or Sydney or Ballina or somewhere, 2-day conference, and get a heap of tradies to come together and help them try and grow their business, and just show them what's, some of the different options are. So that's something I'd like to do. I haven't planned any of that yet. It's just something I've been toying with for a couple of years, and I think 2020 might be the year to push the button on it. And I've been talking to a couple of my tradies now. They're all sort of starting to get a little bit fired up. And as I said, one of the big things I'm finding because of the social media spectrum is that a lot of them are now starting to read different things and follow different people. And the only thing I can say to that is, and that's great, follow as many as you want, but you get overwhelmed so easily. And, I'm a bit of a shiny object. One thing happens, we're going to go and do that, we're going to go do that. And you sort of get lost. Yeah, you do. You get lost so easy. So that's probably my big goal for this year. I want two conferences. I'll be doing the big one in May for the Fence-It. So, and I'll be there. Actually, I've got a table. I'll be looking for probably another 10 fences to come sit on my table with me. So that's something I want to, promote heavily, especially in the Tradies bar and things. Get that happening. 2 conferences, touch 1,000 tradies.
Yeah,
Go to 1,000.
And I'll put my hat in the ring if you want someone to come and talk to tradies about creating a podcast or content or anything. I'll fly up and do some talking, because that aligns with what I want to do this year too. So
perfect.
Yeah, I'd happily.
So there's a lot of things sort of happening now in the marketing world with Facebook and videos and ads and everything else is changing so rapidly. And if we can get I've never really thought about podcasting myself per se. It's something, to get your content out there, you need to, you need your written, your podcast, your videos, it's YouTube. It's so much, and it's so time consuming even just doing that too. So for the normal tradie who's, on the tools 24/7, trying to get their name out there, Facebook boosting, just a page boost, is something that is so easy to do. Cost, it doesn't cost a lot, but you can still target who you need to get to, and just
but even just understanding, going a step further on the boosting, and then understanding the business manager of Facebook and figuring out which levels of targeting and more specific things on interests and behaviors, and just giving yourself, like, you can find this stuff if you look for it, without paying someone a course. Doing a little bit of that can really be powerful. There's
a fellow tradie in our group who's been very successful. One of the big sort of fallacies, I suppose, around the trades business is that you can't sell it. And one of my close friends has sold a digital printing business for millions. There's a lady I know who sold a trucking freight company running freight for millions. There's, I had another tradie who had a painter who had 200 painters under him as subbies. There's some really, really big businesses out there. But there's also the small bloke who's, just working for a boss, but not sure that he wants to go out on his own. And, I have one with me at the moment. He's been training with me for 12 months, and he's just about ready to push out into that next sort of level, which is really good. I'm excited for him. And so I'd be sad to see him go, because he's such a good asset to my team as well. But there's a way of me not controlling it, but still ascertaining that I can use his services in my business, and knowing that he's going to give me the best quality, and that's a win-win for me as well, because that frees me up more. So there's ways around things, and for those tradies to, as I said, a mate of mine, doing simple boosted posts and targeting, like, whether you use Facebook, Instagram, whatever, if you dial down into your target area and know who it is, it changes from fishing at the bottom of the barrel to at least getting you into the middle of the barrel or to the top of the barrel.
Yeah.
You
For
know?
me as a
And that's where
marketer,
money is.
I'm not shocked over the ads that I do see. Like, it's fairly common. What shocks me is the ads that I don't see. And I don't see a lot of tradies, and it's just, yeah, it blows my mind a little bit. But that's
Look, I struggle. You know, I even struggle with throwing ads out there as well, because all of a sudden you have a little bit of self-doubt. And, are my ads good enough, or can I do this? And how am I qualified to go and teach somebody this? And you know, I have these mental battles and issues with myself. And a few tradies have asked me and said, why do you think you can go and teach somebody else when you've just, you know, you've had everything, you've lost everything, and exactly right. I have done it, you know, and I've survived, and I'm still going, and I'm still, you know, I'm probably better off more. Well, I can guarantee you now, I'm a lot more financial now than where I was 2 years ago.
Yeah, fantastic.
And you know, that's a really good place to finish that one on.
Yeah,
you know?
no, definitely. So, look, if somebody's heard something through this podcast or heard something anywhere else, how do they firstly join the Tradies Bar as a group? And then, what's the best way to get in contact with yourself?
Well, probably the best way is to join the Tradies Bar. So there's 5 questions there. I think, you know, what trade you in, how long you've been in business, flick us your email so we can contact you direct and have a chat. But mainly, just the Tradies Bar. It's got 2 little figures with 3 men standing on a roof in like a shadow thing. There are 2 Tradies Bars, okay, on Facebook, and one's a hotel in Cairns and one's mine. So I'm in the process of changing things around, but at the moment it's going to be just a Tradies Bar, and you just hook in there, ask the questions, and once I see it come through, I will tell you this: if you do not answer the questions, I will not qualify you.
Yep. That's how a lot of groups are made. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on. I've been Tim, you've been Simon, and we've been talking. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Good on you, Tim. It's been my pleasure.
Cheers.